I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Nehemiah, chapter 4. Let's focus on verses 19 through 23. I said to the nobles, the leaders, and the rest of the people, this is a great work, and it is spread out. We are separated on the wall, one far from the other. But wherever you are, when you hear the sound of the shofar, come to that place to us. Our God will fight for us. So we kept doing the work. Half of them held spears from daybreak until the stars appeared. Also at that time I told the people, let everyone with a servant stay the night within Jerusalem, so that at night they can be on guard for us, even as they work during the day. I, my kinsmen, my servants, and my bodyguards never took off our clothes, and everyone who went to get water took his weapon. You know, we live in perilous times. There is war, financial uncertainty, moral decay, family breakdown. Yes, perilous times. Would it surprise you to know that it's all spiritual? Yeah, in real time here on earth, it seems like the enemy is some extremist group or some corporate tycoon or media giant or some family member you got to deal with at holidays. But in reality, the enemy can be boiled down to three categories: the world, the flesh, and the devil. And when we have human conflict, what we're really experiencing are the effects of the Lord in our lives standing in opposition to the effects of the enemy in their lives. And the enemy affects both our lives and the lives of others through the form of opposition. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 2 in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul told the church in Ephesus, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. So, what does all that mean? Well, it means that there's hope. There's hope beyond all human conflict. If our human oppressors would surrender to the Lord, they would cease their opposition and they would join us as brothers and sisters. It is the reason that Christians would be willing to suffer affliction in order to evangelize, so that even our enemies might be saved from the judgment of God. The delusion could be lifted from them so that they could see life clearly. And we must love a person beyond their actions against us. As we grow in spiritual maturity, we will more and more see people beyond what they do to us, and we have pity on them, as Jesus had pity on us, because we see them apart from their actions against us, apart from the enemy's influence on them. And it's important then that we take Nehemiah's struggle to build the walls of Jerusalem, both literally, because he was actually building a real wall, and also symbolically, a spiritual wall. The citizens of Jerusalem faced strong human opposition, and they risked their lives in order to rebuild the city's walls and gates. And there is physical work that we must undergo in our generation. But ultimately, it is spiritual work. And while we may labor, only the Lord can restore the protection and the peace that we desire. So never forget, the mission field is also a battlefield. And while we wrestle not against flesh and blood in the spiritual realm, we still face human opposition. And that means we need the Lord, and we need each other. The purpose of community, by the way, is to render our weaknesses ineffective. So from today's passage, we can glean that in order to rebuild the walls around the church at large of our day, we need to work together. And that means pastors working with laity, husbands and wives, and parents and children, and denominations working alongside other denominations. So maybe then they wouldn't be denominations anymore. They would just all believe rightly about the Bible in the same way. So when we work alone, the enemy has a greater chance of picking us off. But when we work in close proximity, as we learned from Nehemiah, we can lean into each other. And more accurately, we lean into the Lord's strength as He works in us and through us. So we must die to that notion that God exists solely to provide for our comfort and pleasure. We are created to live in community. And community is not always so clean. It demands that we die to ourselves and that we live to serve the body of believers and that we trust the Lord as leading them to do the same. And if the world saw that, well, there's no doubt that many unbelievers would start to desire that and they would turn to Jesus and be saved. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people like you. And your giving to Groundworks Ministries transforms lives. Would you consider making a donation to Groundworks Ministries today? We need your monthly support now more than ever. And donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. You know, another way to help is to tell people about Groundworks Ministries. Share these podcasts with your friends and family and on your social media. And of course, you can always direct folks to our website, groundworksministries.com.